My name is Amara Toussaint, born and raised right here in New Orleans, where the air tastes like brass and heartbreak, and every porch hums a melody older than the city itself. If you're listening to this, do me a small favor. Drop your city in the comments. Tell me where you're tuning in from. I want to know where this story lands, because once upon a time, I thought pain like mine only happened on Bourbon Street. Turns out, betrayals got a passport. I used to play the saxophone every Friday at a little bar on Basin Street. Music was my truth, until the night my heart gave out mid-song. The lights blurred, the notes died in my throat, and when I woke up, I wasn't on stage anymore. I was in a hospital bed, staring at the pale ceiling and hearing someone else's voice say my name. That night changed everything. Not because I almost died, but because while I lay there hooked to machines, my own daughter-in-law was celebrating my silence. That's where this story begins. Not with music, but with the sound of betrayal so loud, it drowned out a whole jazz band. When I came to, the nurse was checking the beeping monitor beside my bed. "You're lucky, Ms. Toussaint," she said softly. "Mild heart arrhythmia. Stress-related." Sevens. Stress. The kind that doesn't just sit in your chest. It builds a home there. I reached for my phone out of habit. Notifications blinked like neon signs. One stood out. Tagged in a post by Latrice, my daughter-in-law. For a split second, I thought maybe it was a get-well wish. I was wrong. The photo showed my son Malik, his wife Latrice, and their daughter dining at my old mahogany table. The same one my husband Raymond carved initials into 40 years ago. The caption read, "Peaceful dinner." Finally, no drama. No mention of me. No, pray for Mama Amara. Just peace, as if my silence was the gift they'd been waiting for. Comments flooded in. Heart emojis. Beautiful family. Even a "so happy you've got your home back." Sevens. My chest tightened harder than any arrhythmia could. Right then, in that sterile hospital room, I realized something brutal. They weren't waiting for me to come home. They were celebrating that I'd finally left. I stared at that photo until the screen dimmed itself, like even the phone was embarrassed for me. For a long minute, I couldn't move. The machines beside me hummed steady, but inside, something old and tender cracked wide open. See, I'd always believed Malik was just busy, not distant. That Latrice was strong-willed, not cruel. I made excuses the way mothers do, because love, especially a black mother's love, is taught to endure everything. But that night, I saw the truth clearer than any X-ray could show it. They'd already erased me from my own story. When the nurse asked if my son was coming to pick me up, I almost laughed. "No, baby," I said. "He's having dinner." Sevens. I signed the discharge papers, ordered a cab, and on the ride home, something inside me steadied. I wasn't going to beg to belong anymore. I'd built that house, brick by brick, beside Raymond. If they wanted peace, I'd give it to them, by taking back what was mine. That's when I scrolled to an old contact I hadn't called in years, and pressed dial. "Janelle. It's Amara. I need a lawyer." Sevens. If you've made it this far in my story, do me one more favor. Don't feel sorry for me. Feel aware. Because silence, my friends, is the most expensive thing you'll ever pay for. That night, sitting in the back of a cab rolling down Canal Street, city lights flashing through the rain, I understood something I should have known years ago. When people call you dramatic, it's usually because your truth ruins their comfort. I wasn't some fragile old woman losing her grip. I was a mother who'd been too quiet for too long. I'd traded my boundaries for belonging, my voice for harmony. And harmony, I learned, don't mean peace if you're the only one swallowing the noise. So I decided to start recording my story, not for revenge, but for anyone who's ever been told to stay calm while being erased. Because the moment you start telling your own truth, you stop living in someone else's version of it. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about reclaiming the rhythm of your own life. One beat, one breath, one brave choice at a time. Before I go further, I want you to do something for me. Think of the place that holds your favorite memory. Maybe it's your grandmother's porch, the corner of a church pew, or that kitchen where the radio always played too loud. Now imagine someone walking in, smiling sweetly and quietly, claiming it as theirs. That's how my story really began. After Raymond passed, the house on Bourbon Street felt too big for one heartbeat. My husband's saxophone still leaned against the piano, like it was waiting for his next breath. I used to sit there at night, listening to the ghost of our last song. That's when Malik started coming around more often, bringing groceries, checking the pipes, acting like the dutiful son I'd always prayed he'd be. And Latrice? She played the part of the caring daughter-in-law, like she'd rehearsed it. "Mama Amara," she said one evening, hand resting on my shoulder, "you shouldn't be in this big place all alone. Let us stay here for a while, just till you decide what to do." Sevens. It sounded so reasonable, so loving. I didn't see the hooks under the honey. Within weeks, boxes filled the hallway. My photo albums were moved to keep them safe. They brought in new furniture, painted the living room in what Latrice called modern cream. Raymond's music plaques came down, replaced by framed quotes about new beginnings. Sevens. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself family helped family. But every night, when I walked through that house, the air felt less like home and more like permission. Permission for them to rewrite the story of who belonged there. If you're listening, remember this. Not every act of kindness is innocent, and not every smile means you're safe. Sometimes, love walks through the front door holding a box labeled help, and before you know it, your whole life's packed inside. It started small, like most traps do. Latrice had a smile that could make a snake feel safe. "Mama Amara," she'd say, "don't worry about the mail. We'll have everything forwarded here. Less confusion that way." Sevens. It sounded logical. It always did. Within a month, the bills, the bank letters, even my insurance statement stopped showing up at my new apartment in Trima. When I asked, Malik said, "We're just keeping things organized for you, Ma. You don't need to stress about paperwork." Sevens. Stress. That word again. Soft enough to sound caring, sharp enough to cut off your freedom. Then came the social side. Invitations to family dinners were forgotten. Friends from church said they'd called, but Latrice told them I wasn't up for visitors. One even told me, "She said you're sleeping a lot lately, maybe a little forgetful." I laughed it off then. Now, I realize that's how people erase you, not all at once, but story by story. She'd hover when I visited the house, insisting I rest while she handled things. I noticed her using my credit card at the grocery store, brushing it off with, "We'll settle later, Mama."
but later never came. And Malik, my sweet boy, he just nodded through it all, eyes tired, maybe ashamed, maybe afraid to see what his wife was really doing. Or maybe he already knew.
If you're listening, here's something I wish someone had told me back then. Control never announces itself. It comes wrapped in good intentions, tied with a bow called love. By the time you realize you're in a cage, you've already been taught to decorate the bars. I kept telling myself it was just a misunderstanding. That's what mothers do. We bend reality until it fits around our children's mistakes. I told myself Malik was just overwhelmed with work, that Latrice meant well, but didn't know boundaries.
I even prayed on it, asking God to soften my spirit, to remind me that love and patience were the same thing. But every prayer ended in silence, and even the silence started sounding like warning bells. One Saturday, I dropped by the house unannounced. Latrice opened the door, surprise flashing across her face like lightning. "Oh, Mama Amara, if we'd known you were coming, we'd have cleaned up," she said, standing there in my doorway like a hostess greeting a guest. Inside, everything smelled different. Lemon candles instead of my magnolia oil, my curtains gone, replaced with gauzy white ones that didn't belong to my story. The pictures of me and Raymond that once lined the hallway were missing. In their place hung new portraits, Malik, Latrice, and their daughter in matching white outfits. Under one frame, in gold script, were the words, "The Toussaint family, est."
2019. Sevens. I stood there, smiling like it didn't hurt, even though it felt like I was attending my own funeral. Latrice kept talking, something about renovations, new beginnings, making space for the future. But all I heard was the sound of my life being painted over. Driving back to my apartment, I realized grief isn't just losing someone you love. It's watching the living forget who you are, while they use everything you built. If you're still here with me, promise yourself this. Never love so blindly that you can't see when someone starts writing you out of your own story. That night, I couldn't sleep.
The sound of Bourbon Street drifted through my window. Horns, laughter, the hum of a city that never really stops. New Orleans has a rhythm even heartbreak can't silence. I sat there, watching the streetlights paint gold streaks on my coffee table, and for the first time, I asked myself a question I'd been too afraid to face. What if they weren't helping me at all? What if they were helping themselves? The next morning, I dug through my old purse until I found a number I hadn't called in years. Janelle Dupree, my college roommate back when I still believed every problem could be fixed with honesty and a little jazz. These days, she was a lawyer, specializing in elder rights. I didn't call as a friend. I called as a woman who just realized she'd been robbed of more than her house, her dignity, her narrative. "Amara," she said, after hearing everything, "you've got to act fast. They're building a case to take everything." Quietly. Sevens. I sat there stunned, phone trembling in my hand. Every, "Mama, let us handle it." Every, "You don't need to worry," suddenly rearranged itself into something uglier. A pattern. Janelle promised to help.
First, we check your accounts. Then, we find out what they've moved under your name. Sevens. When we hung up, I looked around my tiny apartment.
Every framed photo, every cracked record sleeve whispered the same truth. Love doesn't mean trust, especially when the people saying, "I'm doing this for you," are the same ones holding the pen to sign your life away. So I straightened my back, poured another cup of chicory coffee, and told myself, they might have written the first verse, but I'll be the one to finish this song. Janelle showed up the next morning, sharp suit, sharper eyes, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it held people's fates. You ready to see the truth, Amara? She asked. I thought I was. Turns out, truth has claws. She set up her laptop on my kitchen table, the one covered in faded vinyl flowers, and the glow of the screen made everything else in the room disappear. Outside, rain tapped against the window like a drummer warming up. It was the kind of morning where even the city seemed to be holding its breath. Janelle logged into my accounts. The loading circle spun, a small, innocent thing that carried the weight of my whole life. Then the page filled, and there it was. My name, shining at the top of a credit report that didn't belong to me anymore. Lines of debt scrolled like a confession. Sevens. A home renovation loan for $90,000. 2 credit cards with limits I never asked for. A personal line of credit connected to my old address on Bourbon Street. My chest tightened. That can't be right. Sevens. Janelle's tone softened, but her eyes didn't. It's right. Amara. Just not yours. She zoomed in on a scanned signature. See that loop on the A? That's copied. Someone studied your handwriting. Sevens. I leaned closer, heart pounding. I'd seen that handwriting before, on sticky notes that said love you, mama, on grocery lists stuck to my fridge. Latrice. My coffee had gone cold, but my anger brewed fresh. Janelle clicked through more pages, her manicured fingers moving like a pianist hitting bad notes. Every transaction told a story. Weekends in Baton Rouge spas, boutique stores in Miami, hotel charges in Nashville, all under my name. They've been living your life on paper, she said quietly, and keeping the bills clean enough not to raise alarms. Sevens. A silence hung between us, heavy, unbreathable. Outside, thunder rolled low, as if the city itself was reacting. Can we fix it? I finally whispered. We can fight it, Janelle said, voice steady as stone. But you need to understand. This isn't just financial fraud. It's identity theft. They took your trust and turned it into a business plan. Sevens. I closed my eyes, letting her words sink deep. All those years of believing family meant safety, that love meant shared everything. Now it all looked like a trap dressed up as care. Janelle packed up her laptop, but before leaving, she said something that stayed with me. You've been quiet your whole life, Amara. But the numbers don't lie, and neither should you. It's time to make some noise. Sevens. When the door closed, I sat there in the half-light, staring at the papers spread before me. The rain hit harder now, drumming a rhythm I recognized. Not jazz, not blues. Something new. Something born out of betrayal, steady and defiant. If you're still listening, take it from me. The scariest theft isn't what people take. It's how easily you let them because you thought they loved you. The next day, Janelle came back with a portable printer and a look that meant business. We're going to print everything, she said. Every cent they touched, every lie they left behind. Sevens. By noon, my kitchen table had disappeared beneath stacks of bank statements, loan summaries, and glossy pages of credit card bills. The sound of the printer hummed like a low blues note, relentless and heavy.
I started reading line by line, and that's when the past started to rearrange itself. There was a $200 charge at Maison Fleur, the same restaurant Raymond took me to for our 25th anniversary.
Back then, the waiters knew our names. I still remember the jazz trio that played "When the Saints Go Marching In." Seeing it now, printed on a fraud statement, felt like someone had graffitied over a memory. Then came a $5 $1,000 jewelry purchase from Bijou Noir. I remembered Latrice flashing a gold bracelet at Christmas dinner last year, calling it a gift from Malik. The irony hit harder than the whiskey I used to pour when I missed Raymond. Scrolling through more pages, we found a pattern. Every few weeks, the charges matched a rhythm. Restaurants, hotels, designer stores, online boutiques. They weren't just stealing, Janelle muttered. They were living high, consistent, and careful. Sevens. Then she stopped cold. Amara, look at this. Sevens. It was a payment to the Ritz-Carlton, Miami, dated December 23rd to 29th. The same week I'd spent alone watching my neighborhood's Christmas lights blink through my apartment window. Malik had texted me that week. We're visiting family in Alabama. Stay warm, Mama. Sevens. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but anger was cleaner than sorrow. They left Chloe with neighbors, I said slowly, voice shaking. She told me later she thought they were helping sick relatives. Sevens. Janelle nodded, scribbling notes. That's negligence. Amara. Criminal. But right now, it's proof. Emotional motive behind financial fraud. Sevens. My eyes fell on another recurring charge. Sweet Serenity Yoga Studio. Monthly, $220. The studio's name made me laugh. Bitter, low. That's Latrice's yoga spot. Guess Serenity costs more than decency. Sevens. We kept digging, page after page. The deeper we went, the clearer it became. Every charge had a story, every number a bruise. At one point, Janelle reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You okay? Sevens. I looked at her, really looked, and said, You know what hurts the most? They used my name to live a life I never even wanted. Sevens. Outside, thunder rumbled again, the storm that had been hanging over the city moving closer. Janelle smiled grimly. Then let's make them pay for every drop of rain they brought your way. Sevens. If you're still listening, remember this. Betrayal doesn't always scream in your face. Sometimes it whispers through receipts and balances, smiling while it drains you dry. A few nights later, Janelle called me back to her office downtown. Bring your notebook, she said. We're not done yet. Sevens. The building sat between two old warehouses off Poydras Street. Plain brick. No sign outside. Inside, it smelled like coffee, paper, and something sharp. Truth waiting to be revealed. When I walked in, Janelle was already pacing, folders spread across her desk like a crime scene. Amara, she said quietly, what I'm about to show you isn't just theft. It's a takeover. Sevens. She handed me a thin folder stamped confidential. Inside were court documents. My name at the top, bold and precise. Petition for conservatorship of Amara Toussaint. My throat tightened. What is this supposed to mean? Sevens. It means they're trying to have you declared mentally incompetent, Janelle said. If that gets approved, they'll own everything. Your accounts, your house, even your right to make medical decisions. Sevens. The room tilted. They're
trying to take my life away legally? Sevens. She nodded, pulling out a printed email chain between Latrice and a local firm that specialized in elder law. Phrases jumped out at me like ghosts. Client exhibits confusion. Subject shows signs of diminished capacity. Recommend expedited petition. Sevens. My skin crawled. They've been planning this for months. Sevens. Longer, Janelle corrected. Some of these correspondences go back a year. Sevens. Then she clicked play on her computer. The video was grainy. Footage of me from that night at the jazz bar, the night I collapsed. But the sound was gone, and the image zoomed in on my trembling hands, my half-closed eyes, the nurse leaning over me. It looked like a breakdown, not exhaustion. Janelle lowered the volume. They sent this to the court as proof. Sevens. I felt sick. They turned the worst night of my life into their ticket to power. Sevens. She nodded grimly. They'll use it to say you're declining, disoriented, unfit to handle your finances. It's a classic elder abuse setup. Isolate, discredit, then control. Sevens. I sat there staring at the screen, at the woman who looked like me but wasn't me. Smaller, weaker, silenced. And for the first time, I understood how dangerous Latrice really was. She didn't just want my house or my money. She wanted the story of me, rewritten until it ended with her name on everything I'd built. I whispered, "How do you fight something that looks so legitimate?" Sevens. Janelle leaned forward, eyes fierce. You fight it the same way you play jazz, by improvising and never letting them dictate your tempo. Sevens. I smiled, faint but certain. Then it's time I start composing my comeback. Sevens. If you're listening, remember this. Not every cage is built with bars. Some are built with paperwork, pretty lies, and the signatures of people you thought were family. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The city outside my window was restless. Bourbon Street still humming with music, laughter, and sin. The rain had stopped, but thunder rolled somewhere far off, like a warning that hadn't finished speaking. I sat at my kitchen table with Janelle's folder open, my reading glasses perched on my nose, pen in hand. Every page I turned felt like another slap of reality. My son's signature beside his wife's, both of them trying to erase mine. For a while, I just stared at the papers. The names blurred, the ink shimmered, and all I could think about was the lullaby Raymond used to hum before his gigs. Soft, steady, full of faith. He'd once told me, music ain't about avoiding mistakes, baby. It's about turning them into something that still sounds right. Sevens. That night, those words became my battle plan. By sunrise, I had 3 notebooks filled. Dates, receipts, conversations, every tiny inconsistency I could remember. I listed every time Latrice had asked for just a signature. Every piece of mail that vanished. Every strange phone call I'd dismissed as nothing. It wasn't revenge. It was rehearsal. I was rehearsing for the truth. The next morning, Janelle arrived with black coffee and a tired smile. "You've been busy," she said, flipping through my notes. "Every bar of this song," I replied, "is mine." Sevens. She grinned. "Then let's make sure the court hears your solo." Sevens. That's when she brought in a new ally, Pops Durant, Raymond's old friend from their preservation hall days. Blind now, but his memory sharper than any lawyer's. He sat down, cane resting on his lap, and said, I remember Latrice asking me years back about Raymond's old accounts. Said you gave her permission to handle the family funds. I told her she was playing with fire. Guess she got burned. Sevens. His testimony would matter. A man like Pops carried the weight of community, the kind no courtroom could ignore. For the next week, we built the case like musicians building harmony. Janelle handled the legal notes, Pops the rhythm of remembrance, and me. I gave it the melody of conviction. One night, while reviewing the evidence, Janelle said, "You realize this isn't just about money, right?"
It's about identity. They wanted to own your silence. Sevens. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Then it's time I let them hear me." Sevens. Outside. A trumpet wailed somewhere down the block. Raw, imperfect, alive. It wasn't a sad song. It was a warning. If you're still listening, remember this. Bravery doesn't mean you stop being afraid. It means you tune your fear into a rhythm no one else can play. The courthouse on Royal Street looked like every old building in New Orleans. Tall, proud, and full of ghosts. But that morning, it felt like one of those ghosts had my name. I stood on the steps for a long minute, feeling the weight of my Sunday best clinging to my skin. The air was thick, the kind that sticks to your lungs. Inside, the courtroom smelled like old wood and judgment. I sat beside Janelle, her sharp navy suit gleaming under the fluorescent lights. My palms were slick with sweat, though my face stayed still. If I'd learned anything from life in this city, it's that you never let them see you bleed. Then they entered. Latrice, in pale lavender, pearls around her neck, hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt. She wore grief like perfume. And Malik, my son, walked behind her, eyes down, shoulders stooped, looking like the boy who used to sneak powdered sugar donuts into church. But that boy was gone. The judge called my name, my case, my life. Latrice stood first, voice trembling like a gospel solo. "Your Honor," she began, "we love Mama Amara dearly. We just want to keep her safe. She's been forgetful lately. Left the stove on twice last month, missed paying bills, got confused during phone calls. We're just trying to protect her." Sevens. Lies, polished like pearls. And people believed them. Then came the video, the one from the jazz bar. The lights dimmed, and there I was on the screen, shaking, gasping, collapsing mid-song. But there was no sound. No applause, no music, just me looking broken and small. Someone in the back gasped. Latrice bowed her head like a saint. Janelle rose to object, voice sharp enough to slice through the silence. "Your Honor, this footage is taken out of context. Mrs. Toussaint collapsed on stage due to exhaustion, not confusion. The defense..." Sevens. The judge held up a hand. "We'll review that later." His tone was distant, like he'd already decided which song he wanted to hear. When he finally spoke again, it was with the cold finality of a gavel before it fell. "For the next 30 days, financial conservatorship will be temporarily granted to Mr. and Mrs. Toussaint." Sevens. I didn't hear the rest. My body stayed seated, but my soul felt like it walked straight out of that room, barefoot and bleeding. Outside, the afternoon rain began, soft at first, then heavy, washing down the courthouse steps like tears that belonged to someone else. If you're listening, remember this.
Justice doesn't always wear a robe. Sometimes it wears blinders.
And when it can't see you, you'd better learn to make it hear you. The day after the hearing, New Orleans felt colder somehow, even under the heat. I walked home with my papers in a manila folder pressed to my chest, like maybe if I held them tight enough, they'd start to make sense. The city still sounded the same. Streetcars clanging, jazz horns echoing from somewhere down Basin Street. But inside me, everything had gone quiet. That morning,
my name had been read out loud in a courtroom, and by evening, it didn't belong to me anymore.
The judge said it like it was mercy, not theft. Temporary conservatorship, they called it. A polite word for, we don't trust you with your own life. Sevens. Back at my apartment, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, church folks, neighbors. Everyone wanted the story. We're praying for you, Miss Amara, they said, voices dripping with sympathy that felt more like pity. Someone even left gumbo on my doorstep with a note. Stay strong, baby. I didn't feel strong. I felt erased. When I went to the bank that afternoon, the teller looked at me with the same pity. I'm sorry, Mrs. Toussaint, she said softly, but your son's been listed as temporary trustee. You'll need his approval to withdraw funds.
Sevens.
Her words hit harder than the gavel. My son. The same boy who once emptied his piggy bank to buy me flowers after his first piano recital. Now, I couldn't take out $20 without his permission. I left the bank and wandered to the riverfront, where the Mississippi moved slow and endless, like time refusing to stop for anyone. I sat there until the sun started sinking, the water turning copper and bruised. On my way home, I saw something that nearly broke me. A new post on Latrice's Facebook page. A photo of her, Malik, and my granddaughter, smiling in front of my house. The caption read, "Sometimes love means taking hard steps to protect the ones who can't protect themselves." Family. First. Grace under pressure. Sevens. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments. You're such a good daughter-in-law. She's lucky to have you. Sevens. I wanted to scream, to tell the world what they'd done, but instead, I just closed the app. Because that's the thing about lies told beautifully. They don't need to shout. They just hum in the background until everyone starts dancing to their rhythm. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker, feeling the weight of silence press down like wet cement. When Janelle called near midnight, I didn't even say hello. I just whispered, "They took everything. Janelle, my money, my house, my name." Sevens. She paused before answering, her voice calm but fierce. "Then we'll take something back. Your truth. Piece by piece, beat by beat." Sevens. And for the first time all day, I exhaled. Not hope yet, but defiance. If you're listening, remember this. Silence may keep the peace, but it never keeps your dignity. 3 days after the ruling, I woke up to a knock on my door. Slow, steady, like someone knocking to a rhythm they'd known all their life. When I opened it, standing there was Louis Pops Durant, Raymond's old bandmate from the Preservation Hall days. Time had taken his eyesight, but not his soul. He wore the same brown tweed cap and carried a trumpet case that looked older than both of us. "Lord, Amara," he said, his voice rough like gravel and honey. You sound tired even through the wood. Sevens. I laughed weakly.
They took everything. Pops. My house. My money. Even my sanity, if you believe the court. Sevens. He stepped inside without asking, setting his case on the table. Girl, they can take your furniture, your bank accounts, and your damn good name if you let 'em. But they can't take what's in here. He tapped his chest.
Your rhythm. Sevens. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small cassette tape. You remember Raymond's old habit of recording everything? Rehearsals, gigs, even late-night jam sessions? Sevens. I nodded, smiling despite myself.
Drove me crazy. He'd record the sound of rain if you let him. Sevens. Well, Pop said, placing the tape in my palm. He recorded one more thing. A message for you. Said if anything ever happened to him, this was for when life started getting too damn loud. Sevens. My throat tightened. What's on it? Sevens. Why don't you find out? Sevens. That evening, Janelle came by with her laptop and a converter cable. The woman could turn ghosts into evidence. The moment she pressed play, Raymond's voice filled the room. Soft, rich, familiar. Amara, baby, he began. If you're hearing this, I'm probably long gone, but don't you let anyone write your story for you.
You've always been the rhythm in this house. I set up a safety account in your name, just in case. It's yours alone. Remember that. And don't ever let the music stop. Sevens. For a minute, I couldn't speak. The tape hissed softly, like the world pausing to breathe. Janelle's eyes widened. Amara, this changes everything. That account still exists, and it proves you've been managing your finances responsibly all along. Sevens. Pops grinned, tapping his trumpet case. Told you, baby girl. Raymond didn't just leave you memories. He left you an encore. Sevens. I felt my heart lift for the first time in weeks. The walls didn't feel so small anymore. Janelle was already dialing numbers. We'll subpoena the bank records tomorrow. This tape isn't just proof. It's your redemption song. Sevens. I looked at Pops, tears catching in the corners of my eyes. You think Raymond knew this day would come? Sevens. Pops chuckled. Raymond knew people, sugar, and he knew you. He always said you were too kind for this world. Guess he made sure kindness wouldn't be your downfall. Sevens. That night, I replayed the tape again, sitting alone in the dark. If you're listening, remember this. Sometimes the people who loved us most leave behind more than memories. They leave us the tools to save ourselves. By the next morning, the storm that had lingered over New Orleans finally broke. Thunder rolling off the river, rain tapping against the window like fingers on a snare drum. Janelle showed up soaked but smiling, a folder tucked under her arm, and a gleam in her eye. Hope you're ready for some good news, Miss Amara, she said, shaking off her umbrella. I've been waiting 3 years for that, I answered. She sat down at my kitchen table, spreading out papers like a poker player revealing her winning hand. The forensic team verified it. The recording's real, untouched. Raymond's voice, your name, the account details, all authenticated. And the bank confirmed it's still active, untouched since the day he passed. Sevens. I stared at the papers, feeling my breath catch. So that means... Sevens.
It means you're not incompetent. Amara,
You're capable. You've been managing finances for years. You have a verifiable account, a record of stability, and... She slid one more document across the table. We also have proof the court video was edited. The original file had background sound removed, frames cropped, timestamps manipulated. It's textbook evidence tampering.
Sevens. For the first time in months, I smiled. Not the polite kind, but the kind that comes from remembering who you are.
Janelle leaned back in her chair, satisfied. We file a motion tomorrow to reopen your case. Once we submit this, they won't just lose control, they'll face charges.
Sevens.
I looked out the window. The rain had slowed,
Sunlight breaking through like brass spilling over the skyline. You think we'll win? Sevens. Janelle grinned.
Honey, we're not just gonna win. We're gonna make history.
Sevens. Later that afternoon, Pops came by, his trumpet case swinging at his side. He blew one soft note, low and steady, filling the apartment like a heartbeat. Heard the good news, he said. You ready to play your song again? Sevens. I nodded.
This time, it's my turn to set the tempo.
Sevens.
That night, the three of us, me, Janelle, and Pops, sat around the table, crafting a plan. Janelle listed evidence, Pops recounted memories, and I added details only a mother could remember. Birthdays, receipts, small lies that suddenly mattered. As the clock ticked past midnight, something shifted in the air. I realized the woman sitting there wasn't the same one who'd left that courthouse defeated. She was older, yes, but sharper, stronger, dangerous in her clarity. Before Janelle left, she turned to me and said, "Tomorrow, when we walk back into that courtroom, don't think of it as a fight. Think of it as a performance. You've played your whole life. This is just another stage." Sevens. I smiled, picking up Pop's trumpet, pressing my lips against the cool brass. Then let's make sure they remember the sound. Sevens. If you're listening, remember this. Truth is like jazz. It bends, it breaks, but it always finds its way back to the melody. The second time I walked into that courthouse, I didn't wear black. I wore red, deep, unapologetic crimson, the kind of color that doesn't whisper, it announces. Janelle said it was too bold for court. Pops just grinned and said, "Good. Let him see fire before you speak." Sevens. And fire was exactly what I brought. The room looked smaller this time, the same judge presiding, but the air was different. Reporters lined the back wall now. People whispered. Cameras clicked. Latrice sat on one side, pearls gone, her once perfect hair slightly frayed. Malik looked older, like guilt had aged him faster than time. When the judge called our case, Janelle stood up, heels clicking like percussion. "Your Honor, we're here today to present new evidence, proof not only of my client's competence, but of criminal tampering and fraud by those claiming to protect her." Sevens. Latrice's lawyer started to protest, but Janelle didn't flinch. She placed a small recorder on the table and pressed play. Raymond's voice filled the courtroom. Rich, warm, alive. "Amara, baby, you've always been the rhythm. Don't let anyone tell your story for you." Sevens. You could have heard a pin drop. The judge's expression softened. Malik's eyes filled. Latrice's smile faltered for the first time.
Janelle handed the verified documents forward. Bank statements from Raymond's account, timestamps matching the recording, proof of stable transactions over years.
"My client isn't confused," she said. "She's competent, careful, and courageous. What she's suffered is not incapacity. It's exploitation."
Sevens.
The word hung heavy. Then came the second blow, the forensic analysis report.
It revealed that the so-called medical footage had been doctored, cropped to remove the sound of applause, adjusted to slow her movements, to make her seem frail.
I watched Latrice's face crumble, her composure splintering under the weight of every false word she'd ever spoken. The judge adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and said slowly, "This court owes Mrs. Toussaint an apology."
Sevens. For the first time in years, I breathed without fear. The truth, my truth, had a voice again. If you're listening, remember this. When you walk back into a place that once broke you, wear your boldest color and let the truth walk in first. Latrice wasn't done yet.
You could see it in the way she straightened her back, the flash of defiance in her eyes. A woman used to winning through charm and crocodile tears. As the courtroom murmured, she rose slowly, pressing a trembling hand to her chest. "Your Honor," she said, voice breaking in all the right places. "This has gone too far. I never meant to hurt Amara. I was only trying to protect her from herself. I love her." Sevens. She turned toward me, tears gathering like pearls at the corner of her eyes. "Mama, you know I only wanted what's best for you. We're family." Sevens. For a moment, just one, I almost believed her.
Years of habit tugged at my heart. But then I looked at Janelle, who gave a subtle shake of her head. "Stay sharp." Janelle stood, calm as a preacher. "Your Honor, may I cross-examine?" Sevens. The judge nodded. Janelle moved like she was walking through music. Smooth, deliberate. "Mrs.
Toussaint, do you recall authorizing a $75,000 $2,000 home equity loan in Amara's name last year?"
Sevens.
Latrice's eyes flickered.
I don't remember the specifics."
Sevens. Janelle smiled.
"That's all right. Maybe this will refresh your memory." She handed over a document with Latrice's unmistakable signature. Slanted, looped, confident. "Funny thing is," Janelle continued, "we ran a handwriting analysis."
"That's not Amara's signature. It's yours."
Sevens.
The gallery gasped. Malik dropped his head into his hands. Latrice tried to recover, voice rising. "That's impossible. I was told it was a refinance."
Sevens.
But Janelle cut her off.
"By who?" "Yourself." Sevens. The courtroom erupted. The judge slammed his gavel. "Order." Sevens. When silence returned, Janelle's voice softened, but her words hit harder. "Your Honor, this isn't about confusion."
"This is about greed disguised as care. My client wasn't losing her mind. She was losing her freedom, stolen by the very people claiming to protect her."
Sevens. I watched Latrice's face crumble completely. The mask gone. She sank back into her seat, mascara streaking like black rain down her cheeks. The judge turned to the clerk. "Enter the evidence."
"Mrs. Toussaint's conservatorship is hereby revoked, effective immediately."
Sevens.
Janelle reached over and squeezed my hand.
"Welcome back, Amara," she whispered. "Your song ain't over yet." Sevens, if you're listening, remember this. Some people cry not out of guilt, but because the stage lights finally went out, and the show's over. After the verdict, the crowd poured out of the courtroom, reporters shouting questions, camera flashes slicing through the air. Janelle shielded me with her briefcase as we pushed through.
I could taste the humidity, the salt of sweat and relief. For a moment, I thought it was over. But then I saw Malik waiting by the courthouse steps, hands buried deep in his pockets. His suit looked too big, his shoulders too small. The man who'd once stood behind his wife like a wall now looked like a boy again, scared, exposed. "Ma," he called out, voice barely more than a whisper. Janelle gave me a look that said you don't owe him anything, but I walked over anyway. We stood under the magnolia tree in silence for a long while, the sound of traffic and jazz drifting faintly from somewhere down Royal Street. "I didn't know it would go this far," he finally said, eyes fixed on the ground. "Latrice said it was temporary, that you needed help managing things. I thought I was doing the right thing." Sevens. I studied his face, searching for the boy who used to sit on the porch with his father, learning trumpet scales between mouthfuls of beignets. You thought lying was the right thing. Sevens. He flinched. "I wasn't lying, Ma. I was scared." "Scared you'd lose everything. Scared I couldn't give my family what you gave me." Sevens. "You were scared of not being enough," I said quietly. "So you tried to own me instead." Sevens. He looked up, eyes wet. "I'm sorry." Sevens. I shook my head. "You're sorry because you lost. That's not the same." Sevens. He reached out, hesitated, then pulled his hand back. "What happens now?" Sevens. I looked past him, toward the courthouse doors, where Latrice's voice still echoed faintly, arguing with reporters, desperate to rewrite the ending. "Now," I said, "now you learn that blood doesn't excuse betrayal, and I learn that forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the fire." Sevens. For a moment, he nodded, as if he understood. But I knew understanding wasn't the same as change. When I walked away, the sun broke through the clouds, washing the marble steps in gold. It wasn't peace yet, but it was clarity. If you're listening, remember this. Sometimes love doesn't heal everything. It just stops you from mistaking pain for loyalty. A week after the final hearing, I found myself walking down Chartres Street again, but this time not as a ghost of my old life. The city felt alive in a way it hadn't for years. Street musicians were playing a slow, honeyed version of "When the Saints Go Marching In," the brass humming through the air, like the heartbeat of New Orleans itself. The judge's final ruling had come through that morning. The conservatorship fully dissolved, the fraudulent accounts frozen, and Latrice officially charged with identity theft, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. Malik avoided prison by cooperating, but his freedom came wrapped in shame. For the first time, the world saw them for what they really were. Not caretakers, but con artists in church clothes. When the clerk handed me back the property deed, I didn't cry. I just smiled, tracing my name with the tip of my finger, like it was an old melody I'd finally remembered. Amara Toussaint. Mine again, the way it had always been. Later that afternoon, Janelle met me at Café du Monde, powdered sugar floating through the air like snow. "You did it," she said, raising her café au lait in a toast. "No," I said, lifting mine to meet hers. "We did it. And maybe a little bit of Raymond, too.
Sevens, she grinned. You know, I think your story's going to help a lot of people. Sevens, maybe, I said, watching tourists sway to a street band's rhythm.
But I don't want to be anyone's tragedy. I just want to be a woman who learned when to stop apologizing.
Sevens. Just then, Pops appeared out of nowhere, trumpet case in hand. Heard there's a celebration going on, he said, sliding into the seat beside me. Mind if I play something for the lady who made the city listen again? Sevens. He lifted his horn and played, a soft, soaring note that danced above the chatter and clinking cups. Heads turned.
People smiled. For the first time in years, I didn't shrink under their gaze. I sat tall. I was seen, not pitied. And as the final note lingered in the humid air, I realized something. Justice isn't a gavel's sound. It's the quiet after the storm, when you finally hear your own song again. If you're listening, remember this. Peace doesn't come from winning the fight. It comes from remembering you never stopped deserving it. 6 months later, I finally left New Orleans for a little while. Not to run, but to rest. I found a small place in Savannah, Georgia, tucked between moss-covered oaks and streets that smell like rain and sweet tea. I named it the Blue Magnolia Cafe, after the flower that still grows wild behind the house Raymond and I once owned. It's not much. A few tables, a second-hand espresso machine, a little stage in the corner. But every evening, when the sun melts over the marshes, I play again. Just me, my saxophone, and sometimes Pops dropping by to blow a verse or two. Folks don't come for fancy lattes here. They come to feel something real. My granddaughter Naomi helps behind the counter after school. She's got her granddaddy's rhythm and my stubbornness. A dangerous combination, but a beautiful one. Sometimes she'll sing while I play, her voice soft but sure, like the next generation, learning to tell its truth in melody. There are still scars, the kind money or verdicts don't fix. But there's peace, too. The kind you earn note by note, cup by cup, breath by breath. If you're listening, take it from a woman who's been broken and rebuilt. Freedom isn't a destination, it's a rhythm. And once you find it, you don't let anyone else keep time for you again. One warm Sunday afternoon, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, but I didn't need one. The handwriting was shaky, familiar. Malik. He wrote about prison food, about the silence at night, about how he finally understood what it meant to be free but trapped. He ended with, "Mama, I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope you're still playing music." That sound kept me alive when I was little. Sevens. I sat for a long time before writing back. "Son," I wrote, "forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means I'm done carrying what you dropped. I hope you find your own rhythm again, but don't mistake my peace for permission." Sevens. A week later came another envelope. This one from Latrice, smaller, neater, scented with something expensive. "I was young and greedy," she wrote. "I wanted more than life gave me. But you made me see what real wealth looks like." Sevens. I didn't respond. Some stories don't need sequels. That evening, Naomi asked, "Grandma, do you still love them?" Sevens. I thought for a while, then said, "Love doesn't vanish, baby. It just moves, from people who break it to the ones who deserve it."
Sevens. She nodded, quietly absorbing the lesson. If you're listening, remember this. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's saying, you no longer get to live rent-free in my spirit. Sevens. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone who hurt you is to live a life they can't ruin anymore.
Every Friday evening, I close the cafe early and push the little stage lights up. Folks from all over Savannah come by. Teachers, nurses, grandmothers with stories thicker than molasses. We call it Truth Nights. People get up, tell their stories, play a little music, laugh, cry. Then we pass around a hat, not for money, but for names, of elders in town who might need help with their finances, or just someone to check in on them. I never meant to become an activist, but life has a way of turning pain into purpose. Janelle helped me partner with a local nonprofit to start workshops on financial protection for seniors, especially for Black women like me, who were taught to trust family first and ask questions later. One night after the session, a woman my age hugged me tight and whispered, "I thought I was crazy, but you made me see I was just being silenced." Sevens. That's when I knew. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who ever got told she was too emotional. Every mother whose kindness got mistaken for weakness. I tell them, don't wait until your voice shakes to start using it. Sevens. If you're listening, take this with you. Telling your truth isn't selfish. It's survival. Because every time one of us speaks up, we make it harder for the next lie to live. And maybe, just maybe, that's how real change begins. Not in courtrooms or news headlines, but in a room full of people brave enough to say, "Me too." Sevens. That night, after closing the Blue Magnolia Cafe, I sat outside under the porch light. The air smelled like rain and magnolias, soft jazz floating from the radio inside. Naomi was painting a sign for the front door, her handwriting big and bold. Sevens. No drama queens. Only truth and blues. Sevens. I smiled. That little sign said everything this long, hard road had taught me. Freedom isn't something someone hands you. It's something you reclaim, inch by inch, breath by breath, every time you decide to stand back up. It's not about revenge, either. It's about remembering who you are when the world tries to rewrite you. As I watched Naomi hang that sign, I thought of every woman who's ever been told she's too loud, too dramatic, or too difficult. Maybe what they meant was too brave. Maybe what they feared was the sound of a woman telling the truth out loud. So let me ask you, have you ever been called dramatic just for standing up for yourself? If you have, baby, this story's for you. And if my words touched you, if you felt even a heartbeat of your own story inside mine, then don't let it stop here. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this story, not for me, but for every mother, daughter, or friend who needs to be reminded that she's not crazy, she's courageous. Because truth, like music, only lives when it's shared. And I'm still here, playing my song.